Dear colleagues and friends, thank you for your respect and support of our webinar series on scholarly writing and ethical publishing. We have done our best to share the latest updates in the field and enforce current standards in writing, reviewing, and publishing. And we hope that you will use Scopus for your daily research, clinical practice, and editorial work. And we hope that you will be more active as scholars on Twitter and other social media. And finally, we hope you will write readable English articles to target top evidence-based journals. And your support and academic interests are greatly appreciated. Enjoy today's webinar and follow our recommendation. Stay healthy and happy. And it's a big pleasure and honor to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Armen Gasparian, who is an editor of several influential medical journals, and also he is an author of more than 100 English articles published in indexed medical journals. Please, Dr. Armen, you can share with us your screen with your first presentation.
Well, okay, let me share my screen. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Please start from beginning.
That's true.
Okay. Olena, let's do this way. We'll discuss first the presentation. We'll present points related to academic writing, and then for 10-15 minutes, there will be comments from our senior fellows, supporters of this webinar, and then we'll go to the second part on Scopus and other database searches, and finally we'll discuss social media for scholarly purposes. So before we start discussing scholarly writing issues, I'd like to acknowledge, appreciate support of participants from Hacettepe University, Ankara, Turkey, from other Turkish universities, in Kocaeli University, and also other universities. So it's an important support that high-ranking universities, participants representing these high-ranking universities, attend this webinar and also aim to publish their articles in line with recommendations of our webinar series. Also, I'd like to express my gratitude to fellows from South Kazakhstan Medical Academy, fellows from Asfendiyarov National Medical University in Almaty, Kazakhstan, fellows from Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, and at the end we'll individually thank all most active supporters and participants of our webinar series. So today's webinar is aimed to discuss updates on scholarly writing and to help our participants, non-Anglophone participants who struggle with publishing in good English in top-ranking journals. So this webinar will provide some points on scholarly searches, on databases, online platforms that we have to use on a daily basis to improve our writing and to appeal to show off our author credentials. Some of our authors will also act as reviewers, and these reviewers may also show off their academic achievements on Publon's platform, which is also considered as a social media platform. But some academic and research institutions consider Publon's ranking an important platform for promoting their faculty members. So I will encourage all our participants to act not just as authors, but also as reviewers who at some point may also apply for editorial posts, particularly for journals published by large publishers. So let's start discussing scholarly associations or editorial associations, publicizing their recommendations and changing the whole publishing enterprise. All these editorial associations regularly update their recommendations, and in line with developments in the publishing enterprise, in line with publication ethics statements. And I hope that Eastern European, Central Asian universities and their journals will also try to upgrade their standards in line with these editorial recommendations. So International Committee of Medical Journal Editors is one of the leading editorial associations influencing our research and editorial career. Without knowing updated guidelines of these top editorial association, it's impossible to work as editors, and it's impossible to guide PhD candidates. So all managers, research managers, PhD consultants should share updated guidelines among their fellows to help them write quality articles and target good journals. Council of Science Editors is an American editorial association with around 900 members from all over the world, but mostly from US and Americas. Their editorial guidelines are also regularly updated, and you also see that there is Ukrainian Council of Science Editors, relatively new association, academic and educational institution, helping Eastern European, Ukrainian, and hopefully Central Asian fellows, editors to upgrade standards of their journals. So the Ukrainian Council of Science Editors takes a good example of Council of Science Editors and other top editorial associations to act as an academic and research organizations, not just society, professional society, but also as an active figure in research and academia. So there are also other associations. Today's participants should know about Equator Network standards, because our authors, when they write different types of articles, they should stick to globally acceptable standards. Any research article need an adherence to specific relevant standard. Some of these standards are publicized by Equator Network. Others can be found in top journals published, indexed by Medline and other evidence-based databases. So there are also other associations like Committee on Publication Ethics, World Association of Medical Editors. You will see that these associations are also important in view of their recommendations and in view of their membership in other professional societies. So for today's participants, there are two seminal works, seminal guidelines coming from International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, last updated few weeks ago, and editorial guidelines from Council of Science Editors. As you can see, International Committee of Medical Journal Editors updated their membership, and nowadays they have representatives from big and small journals, national journals, open access journals like PLOS, Public Library of Science, and also Journal of Korean Medical Science. I support this journal, Journal of Korean Medical Science, and I often recommend this good target journal, currently a quartile 2 journal in medicine, I recommend this target journal for PhD candidates who, particularly from Central Asia, who produce public health or general medicine articles relevant not just to readers from Central Asia, but also from Asia Pacific. So Journal of Korean Medical Science stands next to JAMA, Lancet, BMJ, and some local journals as well. A few points about updated recommendations of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Today's participants should know about authorship criteria. There are 4 authorship criteria. I understand that all PhD fellows, PhD candidates work in co-authorship with their supervisors, with other members of their universities and collaborators from other countries. So they should know about global regulations on ethical authorship. Before you start your work, your research, your PhD dissertation, you should know who should be listed as co-authors and who should be listed as contributors. Those who are listed as contributors should be acknowledged, and their support is not sufficient to qualify for authorship. I often emphasize this point because PhD candidates work with statisticians, with nurses, laboratory technicians who support PhD candidates by data, produce some data, process data statistically, but they are not considered as authors. So you should know who should be listed as co-authors. So those who substantively contribute to your research, those who revise content, your articles, those who allow you to submit manuscript to a target journal, and those who take full responsibility for all aspects of research work. So memorize these 4 authorship criteria. It's important, particularly for novice authors, for PhD candidates, and if you realize the importance of all 4 authorship criteria, there will be any problem at a later stage after publication of your articles. All participants should know that there are a number of digital identifiers. International Committee of Medical Journal Editors specifically emphasize the importance of Open Researcher and Contributor ID, pronounced ORCID. So these ORCID IDs are digital identifiers of individual authors, and these are important to increase visibility of individual authors' works. I understand that ORCIDs are important for ethical stance of journals. So all digitized journals, open access journals, and subscription journals as well need to have ORCID IDs of their authors to increase visibility of their journals. And to some extent, it's also important for transparency and ethical stance of journals. The latest guidelines cover issues related to predatory or substandard pseudo-scientific journals. And current recommendation is to avoid citing articles from predatory or substandard journals. So journal editors should carefully evaluate references in your articles and should ask authors to replace articles from predatory, non-peer-reviewed journals. So remember about that when you revise your references for your journals, for your articles. In terms of statistics, so today we have Professor Taras Guter from Lviv National Medical University as one of the key figures in biostatistics in the region, and I am sure that he will help our participants to process data and advise our authors to use relevant statistical tests, updated packages, latest versions of globally used statistical packages, and also use specific tests for comparing data between groups, for using regression analysis, relying not just on p-values, but also on 95% confidence intervals. So some of today's participants often submit articles when they draw conclusions based solely on p-values. It's most of the times it's incorrect, and we as editors, as research managers, should ask authors to report 95% confidence intervals whenever possible. So avoid relying on p-values only when you draw important clinical conclusions. And latest recommendations also tell us about preprints. So you can see that large publishers like Elsevier, Springer Nature, Sage, and other global publishers, scholarly publishers, they advise authors to archive their articles, innovative articles, with preprint servers like medRxiv, SocioArchive, ChemArchive, and many other preprint servers. These preprint servers are platforms for rapid publication without peer review, rapid publication of research that needs publicizing without passing a long peer review process. However, journals should include in their instructions their position, their advice, how they process manuscripts which are archived with preprint servers. Not all preprints are acceptable by journals, because most journals currently publish only primary research articles. However, big publishers allow secondary publication of these preprints, provided the authors add notes about primary publication with preprints. So it's important to know the difference between preprint publication and final publication with peer-reviewed journals. There are important update from International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, and all our participants should know that any article review, research article, online survey requires disclosure of conflicts of interest available online from International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Now, about planning PhD research. Today, we have PhD fellows who start their academic career, and they should know that before choosing a research topic for their PhD, they should discuss with their faculty or with their department members and stick to department's priorities. That will make it easier to process data, to finalize PhD dissertation in shortest possible term. Analyzing analogs or similar research articles is also important, and particularly for finding keywords related to relevant articles. Initially, PhD candidates should play with PubMed articles and should retrieve articles relevant to their interests. It's also necessary to justify novelty of their dissertations. Sometimes researchers from Central Asia, Kazakhstan, they choose research topics of their PhDs just in view of relevance or importance to their own country, and display that keyword, geographic keywords, in PhD titles. That's not so important, not so correct, because PhD research is of global importance. So starting from the first stage of doing research, you should think about global implications of your PhD, and avoid putting geographic terms like Kazakhstan in the title of PhD dissertation, in the title of your research articles and review articles as well. Some didactic sources, handbooks, monographs may help you to delve deeper into the research topic, to understand subject area, and sometimes you also may cite these seminal articles or dissertations of your research managers. However, it's better to cite articles written in line with PhD and other dissertations. Before starting PhD work, you should also understand that you are going to collect data locally, somewhere, at a local hospital, at a local ministry. So your data are obtained locally. However, all these data should be processed in a way to make conclusions generalizable, important, or of interest to researchers, not just from Eastern Europe and Central Asia, but also to researchers from Americas, Western Europe, and developed countries. Because researchers and authors from developed countries, Anglophone countries, often cite articles written in English, in pure English, and of interest to their countries. So, and nowadays we evaluate research based on citations, and most citations come from countries with established research traditions, mostly Anglophone countries. And before planning your dissertation, you should think about different study designs. First of all, you should think how you are going to draft a review article. Then, based on points of your review article, you may perform online survey among specialists or among patients, publish online survey, then move further, and public health PhD fellows, epidemiologists may also conduct information analytical study based on their Ministry of Health data. It's also an important study design, particularly in the era of COVID-19, when we have reliable data, mostly from state-funded institutions like Ministry of Health Statistical Handbook, Statistical Yearbook. And we may also consider case series. Clinicians often consider case series for their PhD dissertations. Unique cases are also important, as case reports may also be part of PhD dissertation. Even if there is no novelty, some case reports are needed to show off PhD candidates' work in clinics, in primary healthcare settings. So just individual case studies are also important. So we'll discuss this study design as well. So different study designs should be considered at the start of PhD dissertation. Now, to learn more about dissertation, PhD candidates should go to a platform like ProQuest, search for relevant English dissertations, and try to adapt structure of these dissertations to their own settings, to their own circumstances. So Some of the examples are available from ProQuest. ProQuest is an information aggregator part of Clarivate Analytics, but at the same time, it's a repository of English PhD dissertations. Some Central Asian universities, like top private Central Asian University, Nazarbayev University, displays all English PhD dissertations of their fellows on their platform, on their repository, and I advise our fellows, particularly from Central Asia, to familiarize with some latest examples of English PhD dissertations coming from Nur Sultan. How we choose experts for PhD dissertations. Usually these experts should have outstanding profile on Scopus, on PubMed, or probably other specialist platforms like Global Health, like PsycInfo, or publish articles of relevance to PhD dissertations. I understand that the simplest way to choose PhD supervisors is to have a look at their H indexes, Hirsch indexes. However, Eastern European and Central Asian consultants, PhD experts, often have relatively low H index because of their research traditions, because of many other subjective reasons. So you may choose your supervisors based on your own judgment, based on knowledge of their latest publications, particularly with journals displaying quartile 1 and quartile 2 citation metrics. Dissertations also need certain structure, and one of the important starting points is to generate central hypothesis of PhD dissertation. So hypothesis is important as a whole to understand why we need large study, why we need PhD dissertation. So this is why we also have some journals publishing standalone hypothesis. Also, our participants need to know about narrative and systematic reviews, and all review articles need certain structure. Reviews are secondary articles publishing primary data, and the whole process of analyzing primary data requires employing PICO tool, population or patient intervention, comparators, outcomes. This PICO tool is applicable to all narrative and systematic reviews. Also, for information analytical studies, we need Ministry of Health yearbook. And in these yearbooks, we need to collect data on prevalence of certain diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, like diseases of circulatory system, large groups of diseases. There are these yearbooks are important to understand which organ system diseases are highly prevalent and they're dynamic within several years. Of course, these information analytical studies are important for Central Asian and Eastern European PhD fellows. So hopefully we will accept and publish information analytical studies which are also considered as original research papers and can be also considered as part of PhD dissertations. All research fellows, all PhD candidates need research approval, ethics approval at the start of their research. And please remember that you need not just approval of the whole dissertation topic, but you should apply to ethics committees for approval of specific research works, sometimes even online surveys. Not reviews, not information analytical studies, but original research works, like online surveys, like cohort studies, case control studies. Again, not case series, not case reports. But case reports and case series require written informed consent obtained from your patients. All PhD candidates should also display date of ethics approval obtained before starting research, at the start of research, not post factum, not after research is completed, but at the start of research. And sometimes online surveys processed by ethics committees receive waivers. To work with hospital archives, our research fellows need approval of hospital administration, because you need to ensure that no any medical record is used or publicized without approval of research of hospital administration, and no any confidential data will be publicized. So names of patients should be blinded, and number of case records should be also blinded. Any information disclosing patient's identity should be blinded. For case reports, consent forms are available online, so you can use this case consent forms. You may translate into any local languages, but you should ensure, you should keep written informed consent for PhD expertise, for PhD evaluation. Some considerations, ethical considerations, relate to authorship, contributorship acknowledgements, disclosure of conflict of interests. Particularly if your study is funded by pharmaceutical agency, you should cite articles ethically. You should avoid citing substandard and predatory journals, articles in these journals, and you should know what constitutes plagiarism and how to check for plagiarism, how to avoid similarity, redundancy, and duplicate publications. I understand that some of our non-Anglophone authors who publish in their local journals translate these articles in English and attempt to publish the same research data in English in other journals. It's unacceptable. You may publish only your research data only once. And if you attempt to publish it twice or multiple times, you should obtain approval of your primary publisher. And of course, an important point is to choose ethical targets. There are many ethical targets, like journals published by large publishers, Elsevier, Springer Nature, Taylor Francis, Wiley. All these publishers publish only ethical journals, even if these journals lack impact indicators. So, of course, PhD candidates need to publish with quartile 1 and quartile 2 journals, but sometimes experts, professors may also choose startup journals and publish with startup journals, provided these journals adhere to all ethical standards. Okay. Now, about searches. All researchers use PubMed platform, which is free, handy, and easy to use for daily searches. You can use two keywords like COVID-19 and Kazakhstan or Ukraine and retrieve latest articles. These platforms are like PubMed is platform for everyday uses, but we also need other platforms. We'll discuss these platforms a bit later. Some PhD candidates at the start of their research work may perform bibliometric analysis along with altmetric analysis and visualize highly cited articles. Again, this type of research is exempt for ethics approval. It is based on PubMed, Scopus, Web of Science searches, and this type of bibliometric analysis are also important research works, helping PhD candidates to understand which areas are uncovered in their field of interest and choose something new. It's important, particularly for researchers from Central Asia, who often choose research topics of local importance, but they need to perform bibliometric analysis and understand which research points are poorly covered or uncovered by researchers from other countries. Altmetric analysis are also important. Why? Because we need to know where all research articles of our interest are discussed, which media comments on these these articles. We need to use social media for exchanging our opinion, collaborating and maintaining ties with leading experts. And when we publish our articles, we also need feedback of experts who are active on Twitter, Facebook, and other social media channels, and who may also publicly share their comments about our research data, and help us to continue our research. Now, about writing review articles. There are different types of review articles. One of the common type of articles is narrative or usual old type review article, but even these old style review articles or narrative reviews require systematic approach to searches. And you, as PhD candidates, as research managers, as experts, you need to present or report your search strategy in your research, in your review articles. And some review articles may be also considered as systematic review articles. In the era of COVID-19, some regulations on systematic reviews have changed, and protocols of systematic reviews may be published with journals. Some journals publish protocols of systematic reviews, and it helps to choose topics of interest, global interest, new topics, and avoid redundant publications afterwards. Some researchers may publish hypotheses as standalone article types. For these article types, we need certain structure: introduction, exact formulation of your medical ideas or hypothesis, how you are going to test your hypothesis, and ethical or clinical implications of your hypothesis. All types of research articles have implications in view of generating hypotheses. Some case reports may help generate hypotheses. Most types of articles require testing hypotheses in ethical study designs. So we are not going to discuss this point, but you should remember about evidence-based and valid hypotheses. These should be based on available evidence. If you choose evidence-based articles to support your hypothesis, you claim that your hypothesis is not an a priori statement, an a priori idea. It's evidence-based, it's a rational medical idea that can be tested in an ethical study design. And of course, you should justify which study design is applicable. The same hypothesis can be tested by different study designs. Can be tested in a retrospective cohort study, in a prospective cohort study, in a clinical trial, or in a case series. So everything depends on rational idea, on your hypothesis. All study works, all study research articles need standard. I understand that public health experts need slightly different approach, but those who write systematic reviews, who generate data for large clinical trials, they need adherence to Equator network standards. PRISMA is a standard of systematic reviews. For systematic reviews, for most narrative reviews, you need data from different databases, and at the end, you need just a handful studies to analyze. I encourage you to adhere to recommendations on writing system narrative reviews. Recommendations are different, so please try to find and adhere to these recommendations. When you structure your titles, try to make it attractive, containing keywords. And there are different types of article titles. These article titles should be indicative of subject category, short, informative, inclusive of all important keywords related to your study, and somehow attractive. Some buzzwords like osteoporosis, like bone, like public health, like HIV are attractive itself. So when you put these attractive keywords in the title of your dissertation or articles, you immediately attract attention of all your followers. Poor predictors of citations, poor predictors of influence of your PhD dissertation is, of course, inclusion of geographic keywords in your titles. Try to avoid putting Kazakhstan or Ukraine in titles of your dissertations. Structure your review articles based on keywords, based on different chapters, covering all aspects of your review and or your dissertation. Rely on searches through Scopus and Web of Science. Please note that there is a big difference between Scopus and Science Direct. Both are products of Elsevier, but Science Direct is a digital library, repository of articles published by Elsevier journals. We need to search through Scopus to retrieve relevant articles. There are also specialist databases for PhD fellows. Global health is important. For psychologists, psychiatrists, and neurologists, PsycInfo. For nurses, CINAHL. For all specialists, Cochrane library databases. For pharmacy specialists, Excerpta Medica is important because it's also part of Elsevier publisher, but with focus on pharmacy, toxicology, biochemistry, and chemistry. DOAJ platform. It's a wide list of open access journals, and without registration with DOAJ, no any open access journal chances of indexing by Scopus are slim for open access journals. So first, open access journals should claim that they are ethical. They should join pass filter of DOAJ and then attempt to apply to Scopus, Web of Science, and other databases. But DOAJ is search platform for PhD candidates, and I know that some of our today's participants may find relevant articles relevant to Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe by searching through DOAJ and Open Ukrainian Citation Index. Why I emphasize Why I stress the importance of Open Ukrainian Citation Index? Because it covers all articles with digital object identifiers. Remember about that and try to use searches through Open Ukrainian Citation Index. It's local in the name, but global in view of the coverage of journals. Avoid citing unpublished data for popular magazines, from non-peer-reviewed sources, from retracted, journals without peer review, journals publishing pseudo-scientific articles. And of course, there is no need to cite retracted articles. So try to adhere to recommendations which were published a few years ago. The most important point here is to use sources from ethical journals, from peer-reviewed journals, widely visible, digitized, and with digital object identifiers. Some may also publish clinical case reports, or public health experts may choose to publish description of public health in a certain primary healthcare setting, in a certain local secondary or tertiary setting. So it's also considered as individual case study. Case reports for clinicians may be structured in line with CARE checklist, case report checklist, approved by Equator Network. But remember that these standards are just recommendations, and some case reports, some public health case studies may be published without strict adherence to these standards. So flexibility of editors is important. No need to act as bureaucrats, no need to push this, aggressively push these Equator standards. Editors should be flexible, should consider only articles that cover most topics, help readers understand flow of facts, flow of points, and absolute adherence to these Equator Network standards. It's also considered as another extreme. Some case reports can be published as case-based reviews, and it's also good for increasing importance of your case studies. When you observe something, case study, you need to consider also similar case studies, analyze in line with PRISMA standard, in line with standards, with recommendations how to perform systematic and narrative searches. So try to publish case-based reviews instead of case reports. Final slides on how to choose best target journals. We need to understand how impact factors are calculated, indexation profile of journals, journal prestige, association with societies. So association with large societies boosts prestige of journals. So any journal applying to Scopus or Web of Science need to obtain support of relevant professional society to increase chances of indexing by Scopus and Web of Science. And also, editor characteristics is important. Representatives from different countries. Internationalization is important. Good journals are those with a broad international editorial advisory board. And of course, open access, coverage by DOAJ, Director of Open Access, social media promotion, all these factors in complexity, influence, prestige, and scientific prestige, and influence of journals, citation advice, and social media advice. Now, we are moving forward, and I'd like to ask our senior fellows, Professor Vasil Lanchina, to join us and comment on points related to choosing target journals. Professor Vasil Lanchina is a regular participant of these seminars and also supporter of these seminars. I hope that his recommendations, his comments may be useful to some of our PhD candidates in view of importance of different target journals. So Professor Lanchina, how can we choose good target journals in Eastern Europe, Central Asia? You know that the publishing enterprise in these parts of world is different.
Yes.
And we have some good journals.
Right. So Armen, first of all, thank you again for your excellent overview. And you're now delving into a more specific topic, such as this PhD dissertation, which is a very good roadmap for PhD candidates on how to prepare, how to map out a strategy for their research and for then writing up their dissertations in a very scholarly fashion. This is very, very important for world medical journalism and for their own academic achievements. And certainly, adherence to these principles that you have outlined and adherence to instructions are so important. Oftentimes we review papers and we comment on papers and authors simply ignore or don't respond to the queries. So it's very important. I mean, if one follows a roadmap and follows instructions, then your possibilities of success rise immeasurably. So that's the first lesson here is follow instructions, follow roadmaps to achieve success in your work. Now, as far as picking journals, I would add, don't be afraid to submit to these favorable and good journals. I've talked with some people who are somewhat timid about where to send their manuscripts, and they'll choose very local journals that they feel they'll be accepted. I think that if you have a good manuscript, if you have a good article, there's no reason not to submit to major journals, worldwide journals, for several reasons. First of all, you're never going to be published in them unless you submit to it, number one. Number two, even though their acceptance rate may not be that great, because obviously a journal like New England Journal or Nature or Science may be extremely difficult to get into, but if you don't try, you'll never get in. And that you submit your manuscript to high-class reviewers that are present at such journals that can give you very good feedback to your work, which can only improve your work. I've often spoken that one should not submit the first draft or the second draft, but one has to work on your manuscript over and over again, submit it to some of your colleagues for comments, and then improve it. Your first draft, as any writer knows, is not your last draft. And so one has to continually work and improve, not only in writing, but also in how you present it and how you organize it, and the data that you present. Make certain that your data makes sense, and make sure that the flow of information is such that it is logical. It has some sort of stepwise progression, and that it is accumulated at the end by your result and by your conclusion of your hypotheses. Did your hypotheses pan out? in your work, or did it not? And so one has to clearly define all this and clearly explain all this in your manuscript to provide a good, worthy publication. So again, Armen, thank you very much. You're leading us into these areas, and I hope that recordings of these sessions are available to every PhD candidate at the universities, in every faculty, so that they can, of course, learn from this and be guided by these very, very important instructions and information that's provided by our speaker, especially Armen, who carries the brunt of these lectures. So thank you, Armen.
Mhm.
So you see Lead COVID platform?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we need this Lead COVID platform, which is part of PubMed, National Library of Medicine, to search, to retrieve articles related to COVID-19, and any current narrative review article covering COVID-19 should be based on searches via Lead COVID. So it's reliable online platform, free for all researchers. We don't need to use COVID-19 as a keyword, because it's covering all articles related to COVID-19. There are more than 206,000 articles from all over the world, and we simply need one keyword like colchicine, and there are 196 articles covering this field, this drug in relation to COVID-19. And we may also search through different journals, like top journals. An advice to our participants: when you perform searches, you need to choose top journals in the first of all, top journals like Annals of Rheumatic Diseases in this field. Okay, for public health specialists, primary health care as a top keyword. You use this keyword, and again, you can work with different COVID-19 articles, but you need to use proper keyword, and you need an operator and, let's say, a geographic term, entitled, and again we have an abundance of articles in this field, and we should be more specific. So we may also use Scopus, which is better. Let me show you how we use Scopus.
Armen,
I'll share my screen.
Yes, please share.
Yeah, I'll share my screen in a minute, in a second. Just, I promised. So you see main access point at Scopus platform, and there are different options. PhD candidates may choose this option to use names of their consultants to visualize their profiles, but usually we need Scopus for searches. We need, again, here we need COVID-19 as a keyword, and we need second or third keyword. Let's say primary health care. So you see that in this field there are more than 1,000 articles, and we may use different tools. Rank articles in line with ascending or descending article citations, and then focus on 5, 10, 20, or 50 top cited articles. So when you press here, view at publisher, you will navigate to publisher platform, and you may also use another tool like Altmetric IT and to visualize social media coverage. However, Scopus itself provides social media coverage. When you click on article title, you navigate to main profile of article with information about citing sources, citing articles, and there is also information about social media. Oh, here, view all metrics. So in view of latest recommendations, citation metrics should be considered along with social media metrics, particularly at the earliest post-publication stages. So you can see that Scopus is integrated with Plum Analytics and displays metrics from these information or social media aggregator, Plum Analytics. The most important for us is, of course, Twitter analytics. Twitter mentions, tweets. And when we go to this metric, we can also see individual tweets. And these individual tweets are important to understand meaning, understand social implications, or societal implications of articles. Now, again, you see my main screen, and you see I'll do the same. Again, COVID-19 and primary health care. And now I am going to use this analytical tool, analyze research results. It's part of initial stage of bibliometric analysis. You need to go to navigate to top journals, top sources, covering these two keywords. All journals are top journals covering these topics are presented here, like BMJ Open, BMJ Plus One, other metrics, other important data, who are main authors in this field. Top 10 are presented here, but you may also go deeper, delve deeper, and understand who else publishes in this field. And countries frequently publishing on COVID-19 and primary health care. Funding information, etc., etc. But we also pay attention to keywords. keywords are presented alongside citation information, and to visualize all keywords, we simply click and find all these keywords. Most frequently tagged keywords are presented at the top of the list, and least frequently are presented here at the end of these keywords list. So keywords are important to understand meaning, context of our searches. So it's enough for these two keywords, but some of our participants may need different approach. Let's say nursing and COVID-19. The number is more. It means that this topic, nursing in relation to COVID-19, is a more active field of research. Let's go back, choose another topic. Instead of primary healthcare, instead of nursing, let's choose rheumatology. And you will see that the number is just small number because it's specific area. But if you choose immunity or autoimmunity, the number will be much more, should be much more. Autoimmunity, more. Vaccine, much more, much more. So again, we may use, let's say, in relation to vaccines. Which countries are active? United States, United Kingdom, India, China. Let's find Pakistan, Turkey. The numbers are presented here. We may navigate to specific geographical locations. Let's find out Poland. I'm looking for Kazakhstan and Ukraine, Central Asia and Eastern Europe, not Romania is active in this field, but unfortunately Kazakhstan, oh, I see Ukraine here. And when we see Ukraine, Kazakhstan, okay, 35 articles on vaccines and in COVID-19, on COVID-19. We navigate to all Ukrainian studies and find out where there are just a handful of articles on vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines, and we need these search tactics to understand whether our research is locally important, whether there are some gaps in local knowledge, particularly if research comes from Ukraine or if it comes from Kazakhstan. We may go to another search results. So you see, to simplify our search, again, we need this analytical tool. So 35 articles from Ukraine. most of these studies simply cover Ukraine as a geographic term, but these studies most of the time are written by authors outside of Ukraine. Probably just a couple of them are written by a Ukrainian author. Yeah. So these tactics is important to understand local context of our searches. And these numbers, which were presented earlier, in thousands, also suggest which topics are more important compared to other topics. So, hot topic in this area, of course, is COVID-19 vaccines. The same can be done with PubMed, and I'll show you the PubMed search. Again, you see my screen, you see my search strategy. COVID-19 as a keyword on PubMed, and let's say Ukraine. We see that there are 245 articles. Some of them are review articles. We may use these filters to exclude or include. Let's say we need clinical trials, and there are just two results, two clinical trials related to COVID-19 and Ukraine. Again, we should go to articles, URL links of these articles to understand the context. But there is no need to play with these filters because we narrow our searches. So, and I also wanted to show, because we are going to discuss search strategies, social media for academic purposes, and we need to browse researches on Publons. Publons is peer review reporting, peer review acknowledgement platform. So let's try with public health and find out how many. Okay, public health. Why we need, as editors, we need to find relevant reviewers, particularly active in peer review in the last 12 months, in the last year.
Arman, you should change your screen to Publons, because now we can see PubMed. Yes, you should.
Again, I should
share your screen with us again. Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, now we can see Publons. Yes, everything is fine. Thank you.
Okay. I choose public health as a research field and then click last 12 months. And I see that the number is still high. There are numerous reviewers in this field active in the last 12 months, in the last year. If I am interested in some countries, I narrow my searches and I see that only one researcher from Kazakhstan is active in the last year in the field of public health as a reviewer. So we navigate to the profile of this researcher, and we see that most of these accomplishments are ethical, for ethical and reliable journals like BMC Public Health. It's for Publon searches our editors may need to go. Let's say Ukraine, without specifying subject area, research area. Okay, in Ukraine, there are more than 42,000 registered reviewers. Those who are most active in the last 12 months are presented here in this list. And we see top 5 specialists are here, like Roman Lesik, like Lyubov Petelitska, like Bohdana Doskaluk, and others. So these researchers are active in the last, have been active in the last 12 months. So I rarely use this first option, Web of Science core collection. Most often I use last 12 months. And Pablons also has peer review award winners. Let's find out who were awarded. So some were awarded. 13 Pablon reviewers were from Ukraine were awarded. Presented here, among them Bohdana Doskaluk from Ivano-Frankivsk, probably participant of today's meeting, and Olena Zimba. Okay, we may also navigate to other countries to find out, let's say, Romania. The number is quite impressive, but we need to know who were active in the last 12 months. And we need this column. Top scientists are presented here. If we are interested in public health, we need to narrow our search of specialists. And there are just 8 top peer reviewers from Romania in the field of public health. We may use public health, rheumatology, etc., etc. And here is top scientists who public health specialists probably, who reviewed for the following journals, verified reviews, reliable journals with Springer Nature Publishing. So I think that for our practice with these platforms, it's enough. I may use my own Twitter channel to show you how I search for updates. I usually follow updates of important associations like WHO, and why this profile is important. The number of followers is quite high, more than 10 million followers of WHO Twitter channel. So it's an impressive number, and we need, and also numerous tweets, official tweets, reliable. So Twitter is a reliable, trustworthy, open channel for dissemination of information, more reliable than some other social media channels, because there are filters, there are protection security system allowing to filter out unreliable or non-evidence-based data. So we need Twitter channel as well. Sometimes I know in my field of interest, journal platforms, let's try public health or large publishers. We need large publishers. BMC is a large publisher, well represented on Twitter. hopefully all our participants will open the Twitter channel to influence metrics, social media metrics in their field. So here is one of the main channels of Biomed Central. It's an open access publisher, reliable publisher, with a number of this particular journal. It's just journal profile, but there are many other platforms. So we may need some specific information about Twitter handles of journals of our interest. So here is channel, Journal of Korean Medical Science, Twitter channel, well moderated, well promoted. The journal promotes its own articles in an ethical way. The number of followers is high, relatively high. The number of professional tweets is also high, around 500. So we need Twitter channel for our open searches for understanding why some journals, why some societies are influential, or so-called organizations influencers, like WHO is an influencer on Twitter channel because of numerous followers, because of reliable, trustworthy tweets. Well, again, I need support of today's participants to comment and to share their thoughts. We have today Professor Jerzy Konstantinovich. Jerzy Konstantinovich, are you available at the moment, Professor Konstantinovich?
Yes, sure, but it cannot be visible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I need your comment or your thoughts on how we can use Twitter and other social media channels in Eastern Europe. Why I ask this question? Because I know that not all Eastern European researchers, particularly clinicians, busy clinicians, use Twitter.
Well,
and consider social media as something not so important or more related to.
Well, I could not hear your question.
I see that Arman again. Arman, can you hear us?
Well, I guess what was the point? Yeah. First.
Yeah, I can hear you, and I can.
Well, Amen. First of all, thank you for the ABC of the writing and publishing ethics, and thank you for sharing with us this important basic information, for particularly important for the new beginners, for the new researchers, and some adepts of research. It's all important. What I actually wanted to comment was just writing the manuscript. However, regarding the most recent thoughts and reflections, the trust to social media might be somehow limited. I know the new generations are digital generations, so this will be probably a customary practice. How do we share our results and ideas via Twitter, and how do we promote? And this is important. Most major journals use these means to disseminate important and some novel results. And I agree. However, there is a generational gap probably, or some traditional habits of some old-fashioned or older generations of researchers who are quite skeptical against new media because it's too much at once. Maybe this is the kind of an explanation. I myself, you perfectly know, I'm not using Facebook or Twitter either. it's my personal choice. However, it's not a good. Don't follow me, please, because it's the newly established practice includes and will probably include these forever. These media or spatial methods of disseminating the knowledge. However, if I'm allowed, I'd like to just to move back to for a while only to what you said at the beginning, how to write a manuscript, how to choose a good journal. So in general, I'd like to share with you just a very few and concise reflections. Getting started is no fun. It's just disappointing. It's usually an agony at the beginning. So the first, and in this point, I'd like to thank Vasil Lonchina for his absolutely fantastic comment regarding the how to choose the right journal or right address for your work. So you don't worry about the title and the other formal things. The first ever thing is hypothesis or just a research question. And what's the question? This is just the hardest part of the manuscript. So you need to, if you formulate a hypothesis, you need to ensure you have an answerable question. So by writing a proposed answer, and this is what's the point. So the answer or the postulate is just a hypothesis. But another important thing is just rationale of the study. Well, you trust your brain and your intuition. And for every question, for every research question or hypothesis, there is a second question, another question. Why are you asking? And this is the rationale or a background. It usually forms the introduction. And what I'd like to suggest or advise, if I may, the introduction of the manuscript is not just the literature review. It's some of the comprehensive reflection and the logical explanation, just the background. So there is always one question, and another question is why are you asking this question? You ask yourself first, and you trust your brain. And this is just, I think, the beginning. So if you concur with my personal approach to this, how to write a manuscript, how to use and utilize, and how to trust your results. Results are hard data. Whether it's important or valid or worth publishing, the editors, reviewers, high-quality reviewers will help you to, or even if the criticism will be the major criticism, they will always help you how to improve. So Vasil Lonchina has emphasized this clearly. So I'm not sure whether you get my point. Nevertheless, getting started is always agony. It's very
Professor Konstantinovich, thank you. Yeah, your idea is to have a rationale. However, to have that rationale, our researchers need to understand where they can find evidence. And evidence comes from top-cited journals. And where we find these top-cited journals, we usually go to Saimago Journal and Country Rank. I will show this platform, particularly for some of our newcomers, new participants.
Arman, you have started share your screen with us.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank God. Yeah. We use this platform, Saimago Journal and Country Rank. We go to journal rankings, choose our category, subject category. Let's say, where is my category? Public health, it should be public health, occupational medicine, and environmental medicine. or it can be, yeah, it's here. Public health, environmental health, and occupational health. So this is the main list of journals for public health specialists. A quartile one includes Lancet Public Health, Lancet Planetary Health, and many other influential journals. Researchers should formulate their rationale by relying on relevant articles from these journals. And for that, if you see my screen, you see my screen, yeah? You can go to Lancet, to an individual journal. Let's say Lancet. And you search for specific articles in this journal, like COVID-19, or you narrow your search, just one article, somehow related to Kazakhstan or Ukraine. Just one article, not so related. So there are no articles on COVID-19 and Ukraine. But you may also choose just Ukraine or Kazakhstan and then manually search through articles of interest. You know that there are some Lancet sister journals like Lancet Public Health, also top journal for public health specialists. And you may probably you see and you follow my search strategy. So this way you may search and retrieve articles in top journals, and in your references having a number of articles from top journals is important, and it increases evidence base of your article. So having top journals is important in your reference list. And if you need to rely on local journals, you also need DOAJ or specialist or local platforms to search through local journals. Now I am going to move to second part. Again, allow me . So we are moving to our second part, and then again there will be a brief discussion, Q&A session. So slideshow from the beginning. So you see I presented some search tactics. Today our focus is Scopus, but before discussing Scopus as a main search platform, we need to know about evidence-based recommendations of the same publisher of Elsevier. They have clinical key. You probably also know about UpToDate, Walter Kluwer's clinical evidence-based recommendations. Clinicians usually rely on UpToDate and clinical key. Clinical key is a platform for COVID-19 recommendations as well, based on articles published by Elsevier journals, Elsevier published journals. I mentioned about top journals. So to justify rationale, to justify hypothesis, we need to rely on evidence, and the higher rank of evidence, the the higher rank of journals publishing these articles, the more justified, the more reliable, and more rational is your hypothesis, whether standalone hypothesis or working hypothesis. We usually rely on Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine, and sometimes also on Nature. So these are top journals. And each specialist need to know top journals in their field. So let's say public health, rheumatology, immunology, autoimmunity, to choose articles from these top journals. You know that some large publishers move towards open access, and now they publish, let's say Lancet publishes Lancet sister journals, Global Health, Public Health, Planetary Health, Health Longevity, and all these journals are also considered as leading sources of evidence-based information. Some public health specialists often cite their Ministry of Health recommendations or articles from local journals in local languages, which is not so acceptable by American or Anglophone researchers, because they need to find in your articles, public health, rheumatology, or other local articles, sources from evidence-based English journals. So try to include in your references articles from top journals. And when you complete your PhD study, your article, evaluate your articles once again, your references once again. It's called reference validation. And this is important in view of digitization, open access, and English language. Most sources should be English sources. Most sources should have digital object identifier, and also should be accessible globally via open access or other options. So some of tactics of searches are presented here. We usually search through top scientific journals. We may narrow our searches to certain geographic areas, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Central Asia, etc. And you see the difference in numbers. We may also choose geographic term and professional. And again, we need to know, sometimes it is necessary to manually analyze these specific articles. And once you find articles of interest, you may disseminate these articles via Twitter. This is why we need to have Twitter account, to use our Twitter accounts for dissemination of articles of our interest or interest to our collaborators. Usually we use Twitter or Facebook for sharing important information. All participants of today's webinar need to know that there is Cochrane database of systematic reviews, which is part of evidence-based pyramid. The top of evidence-based pyramid consists of systematic reviews. And these systematic reviews are published by Cochrane database of systematic reviews, which is a database, and at the same time, it's a journal. So when we choose primary healthcare or public health, we may find some relevant systematic reviews, and some of these systematic reviews may also guide us in the era of COVID-19, when we move towards online technologies, telemedicine, and use mobile. So you see, usually we pay attention to authors' conclusions. There is no need to read the whole Cochrane systematic review. Sometimes it is necessary to just go to conclusions and understand whether these conclusions are final and whether there are implications for our clinical practice. So Cochrane database of systematic reviews is of global or multidisciplinary importance for all participants of today's webinar. I mentioned about lead COVID. The number is impressive, and this platform aggregates all articles published by Medline, PubMed, and PubMed Central Indexed journals. Here you see I narrowed searches to Kazakhstan, COVID-19, and you see that there are 30 publications to date on Kazakhstan and COVID-19. So I know that Kazakhstani PhD fellows work on COVID-19, and they need to cite some of these relevant articles. Ukrainian scientists may do the same. Now, about pharmacy and pharmacology specialists. Before discussing Scopus, we need to know that Elsevier has two bibliographic databases, Scopus and Embase. Embase is the oldest bibliographic database, but the number of index sources is relatively small, just roughly 8,000 journals. All these journals relate to pharmacy, pharmacology, toxicology, and I know that some local journals may also qualify for indexing by Embase. So if your journal publishes pharmacy, pharmacology, drug therapy articles, your journal may qualify for Embase coverage. Why it is important to join Embase? Because systematic reviews are also utilizing information on Embase, particularly systematic reviews on drug therapies. Now, about Scopus. Scopus is much larger bibliographic database. Proprietor or owner of this database is Elsevier publisher, and Scopus automatically covers 100% of Medline index journals. So for medics, these Scopus is important. You may even omit searches via Medline. You may focus on Scopus searches, and your searches via Scopus will cover Medline index articles. However, there is small nuisance. So Scopus updates its coverage on certain time points. Medline is much quicker in displaying articles, particularly in press articles. So combining Scopus with Medline searches is more appropriate than focusing on just Scopus searches. All Scopus index journals follow recommendations of editorial associations, particularly those publicized or endorsed by COP, Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association, DOAJ, WAMI, and these recommendations relate to transparency and best practice in scholarly publishing. When you evaluate, when you go as authors to journal websites, you should pay attention to professional quality of presenting information. So business card of any journal is their website. And if the website is poorly managed, contains misleading information about author publication, author processing charges, or other information, then chances of coverage by DOAJ and Scopus are nil. No any chance to be accepted by DOAJ and Scopus. Name of journal. You probably know that there are many clones of good journals like Cell, like Vaccine, like Nature, Science. These journals, adding just one additional word, like startup journals, they may choose names of established journals by adding just small words like journal, like Science Updates, Nature, and Science, mix these terms to attract authorship, to attract readers, but the main point here is the journal should have a unique name, not overlapping with established journal names. So alternative names also. If you have Ukraine or Kazakhstani journal, these journal titles in English should not remind us about established journals. So be very careful when you launch journal or authors target journals. There are journals like Cell and Cells, or Vaccine and Vaccines. Which journal is reliable, which journal is established, and which one is just predatory? So be very careful and consider only journals with unique names. So, which are advantages of Scopus? Today we discuss some tactics of analyzing information. Here I'd like just to remind you that Scopus is the largest bibliographic database. It covers a large number of subject categories: rheumatology, public health, general medicine, medical ethics, social sciences, and allied categories. Not just English, but non-English journals are also covered. Web of Science is more focusing on English journals. So journals who are applying to Web of Science may choose English language or may translate all their Ukrainian or Kazakhstani articles into English and then apply to Web of Science. Whereas Scopus is more liberal, more open to non-Anglophone, non-English journals, but even non-English journals should meet some basic indexing criteria. The number of covered or indexed journals is quite impressive, around 25,000. But again, I should mention that Scopus is different from Science Direct. Both are products of Elsevier, but Science Direct is a digital library of Elsevier published journals. And coverage of Scopus is much more compared to Web of Science. Scopus covers journals which are approved by Scopus subject by specific expert group who are experts in certain professional fields and also are librarians who understand, who may distinguish good journals from bad journals. So Scopus selection committee is main filter for choosing the best journals for Scopus covering. There is also Scimago Journal and Country Rank free platform. Scopus is subscription platform, whereas Scimago Journal and Country Rank is free platform. And this platform is used to rank journals in all categories and also in relation to countries, and understand which journals are well cited and can be good targets for PhD candidates. So again, I interrupt my presentation here and ask our audience to comment, share their thoughts.
Thank you, Armen, for your excellent presentation. We encourage our participants to ask questions.
You may ask questions using our chat column.
I have a question.
Introduce yourself. Dana,
good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dana Bekarisova. I'm a PhD student of South Kazakhstan Medical Academy. Thank you for your presentation. And as a new researcher, I'm especially interested in the problem of predatory journals. and I know that you just talked about some features of predatory journals, and now I have one question. Can you describe other specific features or hallmarks of predatory journals? Thank you.
Dana, thank you very much. Yeah, we as research managers or consultants of PhD fellows should inform our fellows to choose top journals for reading and for targeting. Top journals listed by Scopus, Web of Science, and presented on Scimago Journal and Country Rank. Scopus can be considered as a whitelist of ethical peer-reviewed journals. However, even Scopus database still contains information about predatory journals or journals which are delisted but still back files, back issues are searchable. Scopus experts try to exclude or discontinue coverage of apparently predatory journals. Most of them are from Asian countries, from publishers from South Asia, India. Of course, there are good Indian publishers like Medno and other university publishers, but there are also open access publishers which joined Scopus, which got their journals covered by Scopus, but still predatory. Predatory because they charge authors without providing quality services. So if you see a journal asking authors to submit processing fees or accept articles without robust peer review, there is something wrong with these journals. Most platinum open access journals are ethical, and most of these journals are published by universities, published by professional societies, and supported by these societies. And this is why Scopus covers predominantly journals which proved their adherence to best practice standards, and if these journals are associated with large societies, published by established publishers, chances of getting indexed by Scopus are high. So there is a long list of features of predatory journals, but one of the most important features is article author processing charges. PhD fellows should try to target journals which are not interested, which will waive publication charges of accepted articles of PhD fellows and will not abuse their power. So there are some gold open access journals. They charge $2,000, $3,000, even $10,000 for open access for other services. However, these journals justify their article processing charges by offering quality services. There is huge difference between gold open access acceptable by societies and Scopus and gold open access journals publishing everything without stringent peer review. So there is difference, and the best tactics to avoid targeting predatory journals is to ask expert, like your research manager, like your university ethics committee. So this type of points are important. And thank you for reminding us about predatory publishing. I should recall that we have Central Asian Journal of Medical Hypothesis and Ethics, a new startup journal published by South Kazakhstan Medical Academy. Sooner or later, this journal will be covered by Scopus, Web of Science, and archived by PubMed Central. And we, along with South Kazakhstan Medical Academy team try our best to publish quality articles, ethically sound, without charging authors for publications. So choose Platinum Open Access with relevant, which are relevant to your professional interests, covered by Medline, Scopus, Web of Science, and probably also listed as quartile 1 and quartile 2 on Scimago Journal and Country Rank. So we are going to move to our final part of today's presentations, today's webinar covering social media for academic purposes. So let me share my screen again.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Good. Okay, social media for academic purposes. Quickly, I am going to discuss some points. Social media should be an ethical option for post-publication promotion. Global editorial associations like International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, Council of Science Editors, COP, are watchdogs of ethical post-publication promotions. However, there is also a separate blog, Retraction Watch, discussing mistakes and retractions across all academic fields. So it's also considered as social media, as a platform for post-publication discussions, and any journal aiming to get indexed by Scopus, Web of Science, other databases should adhere to Committee on Publication Ethics strategies, core practices, updated few years ago. And number 10 statement of core practices deals with post-publication promotion. Good journals, particularly from large publishers, Elsevier, Springer Nature, Wiley, etc., they have their publishers' social media platforms where selected articles are promoted to attract attention of relevant audiences and to attract social media metrics, social media mentions, and also citations. Social media, to understand the context, the uses and misuses of social media, we again should refer to medical subject headings keyword. Social media introduced as keyword in 2011, exactly 10 years after the initiation of open access global strategy, global initiative, and social media is a liberal or democratic initiative to allow all public members, specialists, and other representatives of population at large to share their thoughts, to publish individually generated contents, and easily disseminate via platforms, online, free, open access platforms. So we may consider Twitter as open access channel for sharing scientific information or scholarly information. Social media is used by all representatives of academia. So students usually use Facebook. So if we need to target students, let's say we perform online survey among students, we may use Facebook channel, but most of the time we use Twitter to target or to collect responses of specialists. Most specialists are available on Twitter, or most specialists follow Twitter platforms of professional associations. Professional associations rarely presented on I mean academic associations, much rarely presented on Facebook compared to Twitter. So Twitter is powerful platform for sharing academic information. Social media channels, blogs are currently used for medical education. And I know that in Eastern Europe, there are some exemplary blogs for disseminating user-generated information, individual user-generated information. Again, it's also important to know how many followers are attracted to these blogs. If numerous, if hundreds, thousands, then influence of blogs is acceptable, and these blogs can be even used for medical education, for improving writing, for sharing updates in certain fields, in clinical rheumatology, in public health, primary health care. Wikipedia is also considered as social media, and any user, online user, may add evidence-based information on Wikipedia platform. Twitter can be used for blogs, for chats. Again, it can be used in a way we use Zoom for webinars, for professional discussions, but with limited options. Zoom and let's say Skype, Google platform are more oriented towards audience and more towards users watching videos, watching graphical information. Social media can be established for certain research or scholarly groups. Journals are also considered as research groups. So if you join Twitter channels of specific journals, you may share your information, you may communicate with journal editors. So good journals, ethical journals, have well-moderated social media channels on Twitter, Facebook, on Instagram. Let's say in some Eastern European countries, like in Turkey, most users, most scholars use Instagram instead of Twitter. And if you are going to target by online surveys, by other means, certain groups, let's say in Turkey, you may establish Instagram account and contact your responders via Instagram. So there is difference between Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. How we use all these online platforms? We may use all these platforms to share information via social media plugins. We may actively use these plugins to increase our online presence and also provide good service to journals, let's say top journals or ethical journals. Startup journals may also use these social media plugins or encourage their users to actively disseminate information on social media channels to attract audience, to attract positive or constructive comments. Twitter has immediate effect on post-publication dissemination, which is why we ask our followers, our friends, colleagues, specialists in our field of interest, to generate tweets, to add few words on articles, to act as micro-bloggers. Twitter is a micro-blogging platform where quick thoughts, quick sentences, quick questions, comments, very useful and counted for increasing influence of journals. Some technical tips on tweeting are available. Limitations of tweets are limited number of characters, up to 280. And you can also use shortened URL links, There are services for shortening links. You may attach photos, videos, graphical information to your tweets and increase engagement, involve many followers, because followers are attracted to graphical contents, not just to text, not just to words and keywords, but also to graphical presentation, graphical contents. And of course, professional Twitter users or social media users need to know about hashtags. When you use this hashtag, you increase retrievability of your tweets and engagement in post-publication conversation, other relevant interested subjects. So when you generate tweets, you should know when your followers are active on Twitter, whether most of your followers are from US, from Western Europe, or from other parts of world. Let's say Asia Pacific, and using different timings for generating and posting your tweets, you may attract attention of your users who are active at specific time points. These simple things, simple tactics help to increase engagement of relevant followers. We also need to know about ethics of social media communication. So we discussed these points in detail a few weeks ago. Here, I just would like to emphasize importance of sharing validated or evidence-based information. If you start sharing unverified or non-evidence-based information, your tweets, your Facebook activities will be blocked by moderators, and it's now strict. All social media channels strictly follow dissemination of information on COVID-19, on sensitive subjects, sensitive in some part of world, related to politics, related to other topics. So try to focus on evidence-based information and avoid academic topics which may be considered as sensitive or may be considered as politically incorrect. So be very careful and stick to evidence-based information. Not all social media activities are equally weighed. So news channels, blogs, Twitter activities are weighed more compared to other social media activities. Why Twitter? Because most Anglophone or most researchers from developed countries use Twitter and generate numerous tweets, and in numbers, tweets overweight and outnumber activities on other social media channels. So knowing this data, our followers, our webinar participants may open Twitter channel and start actively generating tweets on articles of their own interest, articles in their field of interest. And finally, social media channels are considered as open access platforms, and these platforms can be also used to boost your academic profile, to increase chances of academic promotion. And using different platforms, Twitter along with Instagram, Twitter along with Facebook, Twitter along with ResearchGate networking platform, Twitter with Mendeley, multiplies chances of reaching out relevant audiences and attracting attention to your publications and attracting social media comments and citations. And in conclusion, I'd like to emphasize the importance of using social media channels, upgrading your social media skills. Without social media skills, without understanding how all these social media posts are aggregated, how we can use these posts for altmetric analysis, we cannot proceed further with PhD studies. Social media is now occupying, taking lead, and more often used for academic purposes. So again, I stop sharing my slides and ask our participants to ask questions, share their comments, thoughts. Akerke? Yeah. Okay. South Kazakhstan Medical Academy again. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a PhD student from South Kazakhstan Medical Academy. First of all, thank you for your report, Professor Gasparyan. You said that not all preprints acceptable by the journals, and the preprints and the final publications, they have some differences. So my question is, can you tell us about preprints structure? What is the main difference between them?
Okay, thank you, Akerke. Most large publishers like Springer, Nature, ask authors of original research, particularly original research papers, to archive their articles, their manuscripts with acceptable, reliable preprint servers. Preprint servers structure manuscripts, pay attention to format, pay attention to different points, scientific points too. However, they post manuscripts without robust peer review. Why we need preprint service? Some research, particularly in the era of COVID-19, need rapid dissemination to help researchers and clinicians to benefit from innovative research. It may shorten period for post-publication dissemination and promotion, preprint servers. However, may also publicize unreliable information, promotional information about drugs which are not so helpful, like hydroxychloroquine in COVID-19. Most preprint posts on hydroxychloroquine and COVID-19 were withdrawn, were retracted at the initial last year. So clinicians or experts should be very suspicious when they evaluate, when they read information from preprint servers. My approach is to improve peer review services at journals, speed up peer review, and allow innovative research to appear in journals within shortest possible time, few days, 7 days, up to 7 days. It's possible to arrange quick or fast peer review within few weeks, even in the era of COVID-19. Instead of publishing, if authors are sure that their research is valuable and may save lives, they may consider good journals with shortest peer review time. However, I know that in Eastern Europe, there are some index journals abusing their power and keeping good research articles from few weeks to several months, and even year, and even more than 12 months, more than 1 year. This type of journals can be considered as unethical, substandard journals, and information about these journals should go to so-called policing associations or organizations who may punish these journals. So journals should try their best to shorten peer review time to provide good service to authors. And my advice to Kazakhstani, Central Asian, and Eastern European fellows: avoid posting your research on preprint servers. Go immediately to good quality journals. Recently, I encountered a problem with some Iranian journals, and I asked Iranian editors to allow PhD candidates to quickly publish their research in their journals. They mentioned that peer review duration is quite long for some article types, particularly outside Iran. So authors, PhD fellows should know where they can publish their articles within shortest possible term. So I think that it's important, and thank you, Akerke, for raising this important point about preprints, about that which is related also to peer review, to quality of journals, and also to the point of sanctioning some journals abusing their power and avoiding and extending peer review terms. Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Thank you, Akerke, for your question. We have one more question from Burhan Fatih. Thanks for the great webinar. Armen Gasparian mentioned the importance of pablons at the beginning of the presentation. How should journals and editors evaluate researchers who actively participate in peer review processes? It is a completely voluntary process? Is it completely a voluntary process?
Okay, thank you for this point. I think journal editors should regularly monitor pablon profiles of their journals and indexes as well. Scopus index, as a Scopus expert, I often raise this point and ask Scopus indexers, Scopus chairpersons to pay attention to journal pablon pages, pablon profiles. If these pablon profiles are inactive, only few pablon acknowledgements are presented, or only few assignments are recorded on pablon pages, it means that journal is not adherent to current or innovative strategies in the publishing enterprise. Journal editors may also pick the most active reviewers to involve them in peer review in their journals, but they may also promote these reviewers, involve them in their editorial board. So reviewers with good profiles on pablons may be considered for editorial board membership. And I often do this. I often pick reviewers, good reviewers from pablon's platform, and sometimes invite editorial boards of journals where as read.
Armen, today there are some problems with internet connection. Yes.
I see. Yeah. Unstable internet connection. Yes. Yeah.
Are there any questions before we finish? Comments from our
there is one comment.
Yes, I have a comment.
From
Dana.
Dana,
okay.
Please.
Go on.
I have a second question. Can you tell about the penalties or punishment measures
sanctions
for authors whose articles have been retracted?
Okay, retraction is a normal process for most journals. Retractions are due to various reasons, due to honest mistakes, but at the same time due to misleading, due to fraud, due to misconduct, research misconduct, and in that sense, authors who have numerous retractions should be sanctioned by most journals. I know some authors are sanctioned by good journals for 1 year mistakes because of plagiarizing, because of submitting unchecked manuscripts to journals. And we should distinguish retractions due to poor knowledge, due to unawareness, from retractions which are aimed to mislead audience, to publicize misleading information. So retraction is a process that towards novice authors who change their habit, who prove that they may publish good articles.
Well, thank you, Arman. It looks like we have discussed the main items for today's meeting. Are there any questions, comments? Probably Professor Zayachkivska, Professor Lunchina would like to add something.
Before we go to our senior colleagues, there is one question from Serkan Uzgu. How to prepare social media message or post to promote the author's own article. So we should ask about it Olena Zimba. I know that she generated hundreds or even thousands of professional tweets, and these tweets include verified information, evidence-based information, without disclosing confidential information, without disclosing patient identity, and without publicizing controversial or promotional information. If your article is somehow related to pharmaceutical sponsorship, if your article is somehow related to promotional activities, it's better to avoid promoting on Twitter and other social media channels. And of course, we should also use graphical information. We may generate infographics to increase visibility of tweets.
Generation eye-catching tweets.
Eye-catching, engaging, yeah, definitely.
Yes, I really love this job to serve as social media editor. It's like anti-stress. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a good service to our journals. Some of our journals attracted hundreds of citations because of professional tweets, Facebook mentions, and also because of regular activities of a journal on a Twitter channel. Opening Twitter channel for a journal and having just monthly tweets or annually, it's not good. It's attention of audience. So I think that with this, we've discussed today, our recommendations is the most important platform, and of course Twitter channel as open access platform. So hopefully our senior fellows will comment on these points. Professor Lanchina, Professor Oksana Zayachkivska. Professor Lanchina?
Yeah, thank you again, Armen. Yeah, about social media. Twitter has another very good effect on us as writers, and that is that you learn to be very specific and very precise in what you're saying. Oftentimes I'll start writing something and find it's more than 240 characters, then I have to debride it and shorten it and make it pithy and make it understandable and yet make it very specific. And so I think it adds to your writing skill to be able to perform on Twitter. And so I think that's another side effect of social media. Not only your own promotion, but also I think it improves your writing skills. Now, to comment about using sources, journals of high impact and high, they like the Nature and Lancet, et cetera, is excellent, and everyone should strive to at least have a few of them in your core reference in your manuscript or in your dissertation. Not only for the fact that it improves the status of your paper and maybe improves the ability of it to be cited, but also the fact that, as you mentioned, it gives you excellent evidence-based background. But so as not to dissuade our researchers to think that you have to only use these types of journals, because sometimes they do not have, they may not have the information that you need. For instance, in my field of cardiac surgery, New England Journal may not have exactly what I need, and so therefore, it's important that yes, we use this core series of journals to provide our important data, but also to not be afraid of using other journals also. So again, thank you very much. Excellent presentation, Armen.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lancina. So yeah, we need to search through these top journals, Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine. Why? Because these are evidence-based journals, top scientific journals, but we should combine searches through these journals, individual journals, with searches through Scopus, and then through DOAJ. It's important, particularly for Ukrainian scientists, Kazakhstani scientists, because most journals from Ukraine, there are hundreds of journals, more than 300 journals listed and searchable on DOAJ platform. And to have local context of our research, we need to search DOAJ as well. The situation is Kazakhstan slightly different. They have only 18 open access journals registered on directory of open access journals and searchable on DOAJ. And I struggle to find a proper recommendations to Kazakhstani scientists when it comes to local context, where to find relevant information. Relevant information on local studies not available from Lancet, most of the time from New England Journal of Medicine, and there are only few established local Kazakhstani journals. Most Kazakhstani journals are not covered by Scopus and other global databases. So we need to be very careful with recommendations related to referencing. We need to rely on recommendations from International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, and we shouldn't narrow our searches just to top scientific journals. You are right. Okay. Other points, we also discussed social media points, and I see that not all scientists still open to wish to join Twitter, because they may consider Twitter activities or social media activities as a so-called waste of time, and they may also ask professionals like Professor Olena Zimba and others to moderate, to generate tweets, reliable tweets. Yeah. Okay.
Armen, we have one more question from Professor Zajczkiewska. Do you have any tips to increase citation level of journals papers?
Yeah. So citations are important for Web of Science indexing. Even if your journal meets all minimal and other indexing criteria by Scopus and Web of Science, you still need citations to prove that your journal has implications citation-wise. And for that, we need to publish good quality articles in the first place, invited reviews, readable in good English, like articles by Latika Gupta, by Olena Zimba, by Professor native English speaker, Professor Vasil Lonchina. These tactics may help. Also, sharing information about readable English articles via Twitter, Facebook also helps to attract attention. I am proud that the journal that I consult and support, Central Asian Journal of Medical Hypothesis and Ethics, over the past 2 years, attracted a handful of citations from interested readers. And all these citations are because of our promotional, of our post-publication activities, because we published articles in English, and all these articles passed peer review filter, robust peer review. So peer review is important. Peer reviewers should act as supporters who advise to improve quality of articles. Sometimes peer reviewers act nasty, provide rude comments, act unprofessional, and I also encountered this type of behavior of peer reviewers, so-called elite reviewers who think that they know everything and they suppress activities of novice researchers or researchers who publish something out of context. So choosing best reviewers, supportive reviewers may also help increase citability of published contents. When some journals need review editors. Review editors check review articles, check whether there are citable points in review articles, and these tactics may also increase number of citations. So publishing narrative review is a good strategy to increase readability and citability of journal overall. Other suggestions. Perhaps reference validation may help. If your authors, particularly from Eastern Europe, Central Asia, submit articles and you see that reference lists are mostly include local sources, you may ask them to replace some of these references, or may ask to choose prestigious, more digitized, more evidence-based, more updated sources. This strategy may increase attention from cited journals and may increase also attention to your articles. By articles may be commented, authors or readers may read published articles, may comment and publish letters in your journals. Letters, editorials also increase citations. So it will act like snowball. You attract a handful of citations, and if you have a letter written by an influential author, these influential or social media influencer may attract attention to that letter and indirectly attention to your journal. So there are different strategies to increase citation, and I think that Eastern European and Central Asian authors should change their citation and referencing habits to move closer to their Anglophone counterparts.
Literature. Thank you, Arman.
Thank you, Oksana.
Yes, it's interesting because we got last year like 20 citation, but we would like to have more, of course. Unfortunately, so we will see how it will.
Oksana, yeah.
So,
you may also increase number of issues. Thank you. Journals may increase number of citations by publishing special issues. Special issues also attract attention of specialists.
This 2 year we have prescription to keep our previous number of issue and number of papers. What I think about other options is production of ebook. Ebook is very popular, related to the journal, one research topic like COVID-19. It will be our first ebook under the editor's edition of Dr. Lonchina, Dr. Chupiak, and me, where we collect all papers related to COVID-19. And maybe in this way, it will be again more visible for more wider auditory, scientific auditory, this ebook. And in this way, it will be again citation of these chapters or journal papers of journal.
Oksana, if your ebook,
we can. I knew your suggestions is better to increase number 4, but now at that moment we have enough papers for issue, but we didn't want to, and still don't want to increase because it will be
budgetary, yeah. Limits.
Is our surgery journal, who stayed 2 years in Scopus, increased number of journals until 6 with 40 papers, and after they file it from Scopus. So it's not our way.
I see. Yeah, Scopus sanctioned journals that publish articles without peer review and increase annual number of publication, let's say from 50 to 500 immediately within 1 year without increasing reviewer list. So I suggest to publicize your list of reviewers, long list of reviewers. Ask your reviewers whether they wish to see their names in acknowledgements, annual acknowledgements, and gradually increase this list, expand this list of reviewers by involving new reviewers, and this way showing off that you may increase number of articles without compromising peer review. So having more and more reviewers is important, and as Scopus expert, I also consider that tactics is useful. Thank you. So today we have also participants, numerous participants from Turkey, from Hacettepe University, which is top ranking university in Eastern Europe, I think in Europe as well, EU, in the Europe. So I hope that today's presentation and raise points will be somehow considered for changing writing, reviewing, and editing strategies by our influential authors. And I'll be very grateful for comments from our participants, particularly from large universities like Hacettepe University. And today's webinar is also a meeting platform for our PhD candidates who may choose their consultants among senior fellows like Professor Vasil Lanchina, Oksana Zaechkivska, Taras Gutor, Andrei Ziminkovsky, Rostislav, Stoika. These are big names in research in different fields of science. So their experience, their influence as PhD research, PhD managers will be important. And I also thank you to our active participants like Nestle Hancock Chen. I know this lady from one of the main supporters of our webinar series, active publishes a lot, her own articles and comments, thoughts. Olena?
Lihan, would you like to add something, please?
Thank you for everything. And of course, these webinars, I think, so helpful, especially for me. Thank you for all. Thank you. And wishing you a happy new year for all of us, of course.
Thank you, Neslihan. We also wishing you a happy new year. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I look forward to processing your new articles in the coming year. So, Olena, over to you, Olena.
We hope it looks like we have discussed all items, and we hope that knowledge gained during today's meeting will transform into advanced academic activities in great articles published in indexed ethical journals. Many thanks to all our participants, especially to Armen Gasparian, who is a regular contributor and supporter of our webinars. Many thanks to you, Armen, for your excellent presentations. You generously shared with us your rich editor's, author, and reviewer experience. And also, we wishing you a happy new year.
Thank you. Olena, we should thank also representatives from Kazakhstani universities.
Yes.
Asfendiarov, Kazakh National Medical University, Almaty, Kazakhstan. We have some participants from there, but again, PhD candidates and research managers. South Kazakhstan Medical Academy, Shymkent, Kazakhstan. Hacettepe University, Ankara, Turkey. Several representatives from clinical hospitals in Romania, Bucharest. Representative from Varna, Bulgaria. And representative of Medical University in Bialystok, Poland. So why we mention all these universities? Because we should expand our international cooperation, and some of our research fellows in Kazakhstan, in Lviv, may benefit from cooperation and may consider their visiting to these universities. I know there are many options for exchanges, academic exchanges, and Lviv National Medical University is one of the main universities currently accepting fellows from international community. I also asked Professor Roman Yatsishin, who is also participant from Ivano-Frankivsk National Medical University. It's another Western Ukrainian university, large university, and university which is also going to join top 600 universities. So you know probably that we value high ranking of universities, and universities like Asfendiarov Kazakh National Medical University is listed by QS 600 University. Hacettepe University is top university. So consider interacting, consider forging a friendship with participants of today's webinar, and consider joining our next webinar. Thank you very much. I wish all our participants Happy New Year, peaceful, prosperous, and healthy New Year to all our participants from Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Turkey, Bulgaria, Poland, Romania. Thank you. See you next year. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.
See you.